Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic. What an amazing week it's been around this planet of ours. There's been lots of activity, lots of weather events, and of course there's been lots of tragedies as well, and we can't underplay those. But it's great to be alive, and I think it's something that sometimes we take for granted, that we forget that how precious life is and how important it is that we celebrate each and every day that we are breathing, we are alive, that we have our family and our friends around us, and we really just remember the good times and take the simple things for life. Don't take them for granted. Enjoy each and every single one of those every single day. So the card of the week this week is the World card, and I think it's a really beautiful card. It's the card of overseas trip for many of you that might want to be taking an overseas trip. It's also the card of money, of luck, and the world in the palm of your hand. Now, many people are looking for new opportunities, and this is the card that we look for in a reading if we're looking for new opportunities that sort of maybe only come once in a lifetime or don't come around very often. But it's a card of where there's great sort of promise, that we've got the world in the palm of our hand. We could go the 4 different directions of the globe, if we were looking at the compass. So it's a card there that says prosperity. It's good times are rolling. It's a time to sort of get excited, to put your plans forward, to get people to notice you, to turn around and say, this is me, this is what I can do, this is what I can bring to the table, and see where the opportunities come from out of that, but you've got to get out there and push yourself a little bit as well. Opportunities don't just knock on the door because you want them to. You've got to actually get out there and physically participate and make things happen. So it's really important that at the moment, particularly this week, we don't waste the opportunities that might be there to put you a little bit more into the limelight, so that people are actually sort of noticing you and saying, gee, that person's absolutely amazing. I might see what else I can do. I wonder if there's a better job that I can offer them, or there's other opportunities that could be coming up that we could sort of start talking about and looking towards the future. So this week we've got a really big week astrologically, so I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I can. It's the first time in a very, very long time we've had 7 out of the 10 planets going retrograde or backwards. This is not something that happens every week in astrology, so it is a major event astrologically, and it will affect each of the 12 signs. So it's not something that's going to just affect one sign or the particular sign I'm going to talk about that it's in. It will affect each and every one of us. So the sun is currently sitting in Virgo, so happy birthday to all the Virgos, and I know it's halfway through the Virgo sign, but it's still a very important time of the year, because for the other remaining 11 signs, it's a time when we should sort of slow down, look at our diet, our health, our hygiene, look at the things that are important to us, and start to sort of put some plans in action. If you're not getting enough rest, or you're not getting that work-life balance, then now's the time to start working towards that. We have the sun conjunct Mercury. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury is currently one of the planets that's going backwards at the moment, so you need to be very, very careful of any important conversations that you need to have. Now, this applies to the whole 12 signs. It's not just Virgos, it's everybody. Mercury will be retrograde until September 14. So we still only have less than a week to go of Mercury retrograde, but it's really important to make sure that if you have to have a serious conversation, make sure the other person is listening. Stop and regularly check and make sure that they fully understand what you're talking about. This is not the time to have the deep and meaningful conversation with somebody something that's been troubling you, because chances are they won't be listening, or they will get very aggressive or get upset very easily because they're not absorbing or understanding your point of view. They're only absorbing a little bit of it and they're taking offence to it. So be very careful. This is not the time to go and ask the boss for a raise, unless, of course, you've been really working diligently and, you're sort of presenting some ideas, and that's not a bad thing. But just make sure that they fully understand that, you've been working on this project for a very, very long time. It is the time, though, to make sure that if you're signing any legal or government documents, that you read them thoroughly. Can I suggest read them out aloud to yourself? That way you may pick up any mistakes that are there. It's the time when our cell phones, our computers, communication wires get crossed, people don't read something, or they don't look at the date. And it's a time where we just really have to be a little bit more vigilant. So that's Mercury retrograde. Now we're moving on to Jupiter, which is retrograde also in Taurus. Now, Jupiter retrograde will be retrograding until December this year. So when Jupiter goes retrograde, Jupiter's the planet of luck and opportunity and expansion. It's not saying that our luck's dried up. It's just saying that we need to work a little bit harder to present something. If we're trying to bring about changes into our lives, if we're trying to bring about new opportunities and things in our lives, we just have to work that little bit harder. Work on your presentation more, make sure that everything's sharp and up to the minute, make sure that you're well presented, that you've rehearsed what you're going to say. And that's always a good idea, no matter whether a planet's going retrograde or not, that we have a little trial run before we present something that's really important. Uranus, the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, is also sitting in Taurus, is also retrograde, and will be there till the end of January 2024. So when Uranus goes backwards, it doesn't mean the whole world comes to a standstill. Uranus still works in a way that can deliver unusual, unexpected things coming out of nowhere, things that are going to take us by surprise. Not always are they good. Quite often they can be things that we thought we had taken care of or had minimised the fallout of, and all of a sudden it comes back to bite us. So just be careful. If you're doing things that you need to set in place that are really important, whether they're family matters or connected to your job, just make sure that you've crossed your I, dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and made sure everything's as much as possible is very cleverly set up, that nothing can come back to bite you. And I'm using the word cleverly because I don't mean that to be deceitful. I mean that to be, make sure that you're really organised and you've really looked and looked at everything very, very thoroughly before you say, right, that's it, I'm ready to submit now. Venus, the planet of love and affection, is also retrograde at the moment in Leo, and it will be there until October. So this is not great news for people that are searching for love or hoping to start a new relationship. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I'm just saying be aware, make sure that if you do meet somebody new and someone new comes into your path and you want to start a connection or a relationship with them, make sure that you fully understand who they are and what they're about, and make sure that they're being completely honest and truthful with you and not presenting just what you want to see. Quite often in a new relationship, people wear a mask. They show you only their good side. They don't show you their warts and all side. And that's really important. If we're going to continue and develop into a serious committed relationship, you need to see all facets of the person. It's not necessarily the worst time in the world to be attracting new love. I'm just going to say, enter with caution, as you should always do, and make sure that you really get to know the person before you sort of let, the flutters of the heart take over and you haven't really got to know the person at all. We have Neptune. Now that Venus will be there in retrograde until October, middle of October. We have Neptune also is retrograde in Pisces. Now Neptune's the planet of illusion, delusion, creativity, and it's a time when Neptune's retrograde I actually think is a positive, because for those very creative souls that are songwriters, that write books, that write music, that paint, that create ceramics, do anything on a creative level, this is a time when it's sort of almost like a little bit of luxury time. You can allow yourself time to daydream a little bit, to sort of sit there and ponder and think and allow those creative juices to flow. And quite often with a Neptune retrograde, we get the most prolific songs, or the most beautiful pictures are painted, or, a fantastic movie is created at this time, because the creative juices are really working in the correct order, I suppose, because we're not allowing things to sort of distract us. We're allowing things to sort of just flow and be at a time that they're comfortable with. Instead of us trying to reach deadlines, we're just allowing things to flow. So Neptune will be there retrograde until the latter part of December. We also have Saturn, the planet of discipline, is also sitting in Pisces. He's also retrograde. Now, Saturn here is not saying he's taking the brakes off and we can all, run amok and do what we please. It's just saying that some of the projects that we might have on our plate, things that we're trying to organise, things that we're trying to get across the line, might take a little bit more work, or might take a little bit of extra effort than what we were hoping to have to put in to make these things a reality. Now, Saturn will be retrograde until November. So it's time that we need to really be sort of focused on the fact that, we might need to sort of ramp things up. We might need to put a little bit of extra energy into things at the moment just to get them across the line. But on the upside, this gives us tremendous discipline, tremendous stickability to be able to see projects through to the end. So I don't actually mind Saturn being retrograde until mid-November. It sort of, it gives us that stability factor that sometimes is missing when we have such a busy life, that we, sometimes aren't quite as disciplined or as focused on ideas and projects as we should be. The final one is Pluto, of course, is retrograde in Capricorn. Pluto spends half his time retrograde. So I don't quite often talk about a Pluto retrograde, but at the moment this is important because Pluto is nearing the end of his reign in Capricorn. Now, it'll be retrograde for the final time, is now until the end of October. Pluto will then go direct and will enter into the sign of Aquarius in the early part of 2024. So this is the time when we're going to see governments, we're going to see things that are going to come out in the washing, so to speak, things that have been hidden for a very, very long time are going to now surface, and not all of them are going to be pleasant, but it is connected with governments, big business, anything that's of a financial nature. If somebody's deceived you on a financial level, this is the time they all get caught. This is the time if anybody's been doing the wrong thing or hiding money and they shouldn't have been, or not paying their taxes or whatever, this is the time you will be caught, because Pluto's role is to bring out what has been hidden, what people have tried to deceive from you. It will bring it out into the open now, and it will not be tolerated. So it's a really, if you've done something wrong, you're better off coming clean, owning up to it and taking the consequences, rather than waiting to be caught and then it to be a major, major problem for you. So Pluto retrograde is something we all need to be aware of. We all need to make sure that we've done the right thing, that we haven't done the wrong thing willingly or knowingly, that, sometimes we make mistakes because, or have an accident and do something wrong because we are human. But this is the time to own up. If you've found something that you've done wrong, take it to the authorities, bring that to the attention of the person that needs to have this knowledge and understand, and then sort of, plead for mercy. Say, I really did do it in good faith. I wasn't aware that I was breaking the law or doing something wrong, and you'll find then the consequences will be a lot less. So we're going to take our first caller, which is Michelle in Bessemer in Alabama in the USA. Are you there, Michelle?
Yes.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, Michelle?
Well, I was just seeing what you might see in my future, how things are going.
Okay. It's usually easier for me because we have such a short time on the show. If you have a question or something that's troubling you that you want answered, then I'm happy to look at that so that we get to the bottom of why you phoned into the show, sweetie. If you just want a general look, I can do that.
I have one concern. It's about my child, and I was just wondering if you see any insight on that one.
Okay. Do you mind sharing with me the child's first initial, sweetie, and their age?
M, and 30. 30.
Okay, fine. Right, let me tune into that for you. There is some massive changes coming up around that child. It's interesting because it's almost like I want to say that they've sat still for a while and sort of sat there and said, I don't know what to do, or I don't want to do anything, or I'm not prepared to do anything. And it's like, well, just because they weren't prepared to look at it or deal with it or want to move it forward, life is going to move it forward anyway. There is some very strong changes coming up between now and December for them, which they're not going to be totally happy with, but in hindsight, they're going to look back and say, I'm glad that happened because it got me out of this funky sort of energy. It moved me along. It made me sort of grow up a little bit. It made me sort of look at, hang on a minute, I can't just sit there and say, I don't know what to do. It's, I've got to start pushing forward. Has there been some changes around where they've been living recently? Like in this last 12 months, has there been a change around that?
Has there been a change around what?
Where they're living. Have they moved home, or are they about to move home? Because I'm seeing a very unsettled energy around the house, around the place of abode.
No.
Is there likely to be changes? Because I'm feeling change there. I'm not sure whether they're going to move or whether it's changes within the structure there of, the dynamics of who shares the place together.
Well, we're hoping they get to move home.
Okay, good. Well, I am seeing a move, so that's a positive. Are we hoping to sort of move before the end of the year?
Definitely.
Good, okay. Because I was seeing as early as October.
Awesome.
And with that, to me, signals the changes that are coming into your child's life in a more positive sort of way. And I want to be very clear. I wasn't saying that they were lazy. I was just saying that they didn't know which direction to take. So it was easier to sort of sit there and literally not do anything until you saw which way the pathway was clearing, what was the right direction to take. I want to be very clear. I wasn't meaning that they were being lazy. They were just trying to work out what was the best steps to take before taking the action. But the move of resonance will be the catalyst or the start of things changing and moving in a better direction. Are they also looking to sort of not so much change their job, but is there an opportunity there where maybe there could be a promotion or some extra money coming from the job?
I'm not sure on that one. I'm not 100% positive on that one.
Okay. I feel that there will be. I'm not sure that the promotion situation or the extra money is going to come in this year, but I'm certainly seeing it in the first 3 months of next year. And it's interesting because I look into 2024 for them and I see nothing but sort of brightness, happiness, everything's going their way. There's a lot of the stress that was there in 2022 and 2023 is now starting to subside and sort of, break up and disappear. And that's a good thing. And also I felt that their health was improving too. So has there been a little bit of a health concern there, a little bit of a niggling issue?
Yes.
That seems to be certainly improving too. I'm not saying we're completely getting rid of it, but I'm saying it's certainly improved. It's really lovely, Michelle. What I'm seeing around you in your family in general, not just the person we were just talking about, is that things are starting to move forward. It's like everything was stuck for such a long time and it's now like everything's breaking up and it's like we can start to move forward again. And that's a good thing. I don't feel uncomfortable with that. I feel very, very, very positive about that it's now the right time for the whole family to be able to sort of exhale and say, wow, things are starting to move. Things are starting to progress. And I feel a lot of this has fallen on your shoulders, Michelle. It's sort of like you've been the one that's been the glue that's held everybody together. And you're tired, you need to be able to take a bit of a breather for yourself now and, just sort of be able to sit back on the couch with a cuppa and say, oh, that's good. Everybody's sort of starting to get their own lives together. I can sort of just have a little bit of a rest here and regroup and then sort of, start to look at what you need to change or what you need to work on in your own life. So 2024 will certainly get off to a slow start for you personally because you are able to take that little bit of a rest and sort of just let everybody else sort of, launch their year off and move forward and you can just sort of catch your breath a little bit. So I hope that's helped you, Michelle, has it?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, but it's been a struggle for you, because you've been everything to everybody, haven't you? Who's been holding Michelle up?
Yes.
And
I've been
it's your
everything to
turn now.
everything.
Yeah, and it's your turn now to be able to sit there and just have a little rest, once we get through the end of this year, that, you can give yourself that, I wouldn't even call it luxury. I'd say it's well-deserved rest. You can have a little rest and catch your breath and then sort of say, well, I don't want to do anything today. I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. And that's okay. You're allowed to do that because, sometimes that's what we need to be able to do. Okay, well, it was lovely talking with Michelle. I'm sure there's lots of people around the world at the moment that can relate to the reading with Michelle where they've had lots of changes in their lives and things that, they've been the only one that's been able to sort of focus on getting the family back to, where they should be and moving forward again. And it's a message there for many of us, not just Michelle. We're going to talk with Leslie in Islip in New York. Are you there, Leslie?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Leslie. Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
What does Spirit need me to know right now?
Okay. It's a really interesting question because Spirit doesn't necessarily come through and say, I want you to do this or that or the other. They come through with different messages at different times, Leslie, for putting suggestions into our mind. Not necessarily are they able to control us or tell us what to do. What I can share with
Right.
you is that you're moving into a different direction, that, you know, the new pathway that you're starting to carve out for yourself has felt at times a little bit uncomfortable. It's sort of like you've questioned whether or not you're actually on the right track, or am I just doing this because I wanted it, or is it wishful thinking? I'm going to say to you, it's probably a combination of all of the above, but it's not necessarily the wrong path. I think you maybe jumped the gun a little bit, that you got the idea in your head of what needed to happen or what needed to change, and you went full throttle. And instead of taking your time, you just went in full throttle and sort of thought, oh, I don't know whether this was right, but it's okay. You've done that. That's all right. It's interesting because they're also sort of sharing with me that you're too tough on yourself. You've got to loosen up a little bit. Stop being like the school teacher with the red pen and putting the crosses on the page saying you got that wrong. You know, we don't get everything right in our lives, and we're not meant to. It's a balancing act. And I think, you know, if you can be a little bit less tough on yourself and enjoy what's going on around you, I think you'll find that you'll start to feel like you're achieving more in your life. You know, you've sort of always feel as if you just fall short of the mark that you want to achieve. Maybe lower those goalposts a little bit too, Michelle. Leslie, I beg your pardon. Have you also just changed your job?
No, but I'm a teacher and I was looking to change my area, kind of like go to an older level, and it was denied.
Okay, that would still come out to me as a change of job, because it's sort of, you know, you're moving from one classroom to another. So that's a change, even though you're still staying in the
Right.
same profession. So is that coming up for you in the next month or so? Or is there an answer likely to come in the next month or so for this to happen?
No, it was denied, and I'm very upset about it.
Okay, don't be upset about it, because I think there's a better position coming.
Okay.
And it's going to come sort of like out of left of field. It's going to come out of nowhere. To me, it felt like this should have already happened. But if you've had one denied, there is something else coming, and it's coming before the end of the year. And it's like, oh, okay, what do I do about this? You know, like I've already got a commitment on one hand, and then I've been offered this on the other hand. Look, I'd say to hell with the commitment you've got. If you've got an opportunity to move into the area of teaching that you want to go to, grab it with both hands and go for it. You know, because this is going to come out of nowhere. It's interesting because the job that you got denied, that you were upset about, actually wouldn't have worked out the way that you wanted it to. So don't look at that as a negative. Look at that as you had a lucky escape. You know, the powers that be, the spirit guides, the people that are guiding you and helping you didn't actually want you to get that role. They've got something better lined up for you, but it was sort of like, almost like you had to go through the practice run of applying for this, and even though you were disappointed, there's something much better coming. And to me, it's I don't like to say one school's better than another, but this one to me has a better feel about it. You know, like they're more open to ideas, and they really care for the students, and it's just, you know, there seems to be some better outcomes, and I think you'll fit in better with the staff, and it's more your way of teaching. You're going to feel really much at home there, and it's somewhere that I think you're going to stay for a very long time, Leslie, which is good. But also too, I think that you need to be sort of aware that not everybody's going to like you, sweetie, and nor do they need to. You know, you're a leader. You're a person that motivates people to get up off the chair and off the couch and do something with their lives. And sometimes people don't like that. When they see somebody that's a leader, they find you a little bit threatening, and you're not threatening in any way. You just, you know, you want to bring out the best in people. So don't change.
Okay.
You know, you are who you are. You shouldn't be try and be somebody else. You know, you're really good with your students, and there's many a student that, you know, has grown into a fine young person because of having been in your class and, you know, had some of your magic sprinkled over them. So just keep going, Leslie. You're doing a really, really, really good job. And 2024 will be a much easier year, particularly on the emotions, than 2022 and 2023 were. You know, these last couple of years have been quite difficult. There's been a lot of endings and change and disappointment, and things haven't quite gone the way that you'd hoped or you'd anticipated. But next year is certainly sort of like a much breezier year. It's much easier. So I hope that's helped you,
Okay.
Leslie.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all very accurate and very hard the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's been tough, and you can't ignore that. Sometimes, when we have some tough years, it's nice to have a year where things start to go right, or a few years where things are going to start to go right. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave Leslie now. We've come to the end of the show again. It goes very quickly. I appreciate that. And, there's lots of people around the world that have got lots of changes going on at the moment, and people have had things that have come out of nowhere that they've had to sort of deal with, that were unexpected. And it's that's called life. Unfortunately, we have to keep moving, we have to keep changing and evolving and growing with it. And sometimes it can be overwhelming and it can be tough, and sometimes we think, oh, this is just all too hard, I don't know that I can handle this. But we're never sent anything, I believe, that we can't handle. Sometimes we just got to dig deep and find that inner resource that helps us deal with and cope with what's happening in our lives. And this week I want to leave you with a song that's an old song, but it's a beautiful song. And the words, I think, are very, very appropriate at the moment for a lot of us. And it's by Diana Ross, and it's called Reach Out and Touch Someone's Hand and Make This World a Better Place If You Can, is just some of the words in the song. But the song is called Reach Out and Touch by Diana Ross. And I think it's one of the most beautiful songs ever written, and it's something that I think is very inspirational. And I think we should all reach out and touch somebody's hand and try and make the world a little bit of a better place, because sometimes by just showing somebody a little bit of kindness can be the thing that really brightens their day and makes them feel special and important. So until next week, reach out and touch. Bye for now.